1, 2, 1, 2.
Wanted things done in her time and in her way, and not so much. And I was a very laid back guy. I'd rather be sitting on the porch rocking, reading a book or something than vacuuming or shampooing the carpet or printing out 5,000 pages of something she'd written. And so we, antagonized each other like that. But her temper was quick. I mean, we could have a knockdown drag out, and I'd come back in 10 minutes, and it was like it never happened. And that was kind of good, but at the same time, I'd get upset because I'd think, well, she doesn't even know how that affects me. For Nancy and I, it was really hard. We were so different, not just physically different, but the things we like to do, the way our backgrounds. My family was very unemotional, very untouching. Hers was just full of kisses and hugs and bawling and fighting and all those kinds of things. I didn't know what to expect. Our whole situation was a little different maybe than the average person in that Nancy and I had known each other since we were 14 years old, and we were now almost 30, and we didn't marry any earlier. I think Nancy knew from day one that we were meant for each other, but it took a lot of years for me to know that, just because of my past, where I had come from. I'd been living as a homosexual for all those years, and I finally knew that it was God's will for me to be married. But I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know what love was, but I was determined, and so was Nancy, to put God in the middle of our relationship and do the thing that I had to trust Him to work out. Our number one precious moment between the both of us even was that when our first child was born. I didn't want any children. In fact, I made her agree that we wouldn't worry about having children when we got married. Nancy had always wanted kids, but the doctors had said she couldn't have any children. And so when Katie, our oldest, was born, that was something else again. That was something that I never believed could happen, seeing my past and her inability to have children. That was cool. And then to have 4 more after her, wow, that was neat. I thank God every day for that. It was a total miracle. It was a challenge. But with God in the middle of our marriage, that we agreed on from the very beginning, before we even took our vows, the one thing that was going to keep us together like glue was God. Without Him there, we'd have never made it. And again, I'm so thankful to God that He was glorifying Himself through us. This wasn't about me or Nancy. It was about God saying, see what I can do if you'll just let me do it. The last 20 years of our marriage, she was in and out of a wheelchair, and eventually completely in a wheelchair. And then she had a scooter too that she could run around on once she got on it. And so that was a hardship in our marriage, and it was difficult. And there were times when I did think, God, I didn't sign up for this. And I was tempted to do other things, but God kept using us both in so many ways. It drew us together as one. We had each other's backs because we knew that was God's will for us, and that we could do it. And again, it wasn't us but God. That I wanted people to be able to see what God can do if you just stand still and let Him do it. It becomes less work and more joy. In 2010 is when she got so very, very sick, and I could write a book on that whole summer from May until September. But I never saw a braver lady in all my life. And then I also began to find out so much about her that I didn't know. God is awesome. The things He does, they're awesome. And He had used her all those years, even in her disabilities, and had given me the grace to do what she needed. Not always perfectly, but to love her and to support her in what she was doing as she supported me as well. You can't do too much for your wife. And women are responders, and they're going to respond to your love, your touch. And they know when you're not loving them too. It's loving from the heart, the way God loves us, and accepting one another where you are, and going to 1 Corinthians 13 and looking seriously at what love is. It's kind of scary, but God wouldn't have told us something to do if we couldn't do it. In the end, I found a Valentine in our barn that was stored away, the first Valentine's after she had passed, and she hadn't even given it to me. And I don't know when she created it. She created it online, but it was one of the most wonderful things that I ever saw. I mean, I wept about it forever, and probably could right now if I let myself. Another time at the end of a Becker, she was in the hospital, a hospital bed at home. She called me over late one night. She could barely whisper, and I was a little irritated because she was getting me up because I might not get but 2 hours sleep that night. And I had to get right down in her face to understand it when she said, you're my hero, don't you? And again, it just broke my heart because it only emphasized the fact that I had even had a bad attitude of getting out of bed to go see what she wanted, and all she wanted to do was tell me that I was her hero. And but that's a real marriage. Give all your rights to God instead of, but I have a right for this and that and the other. No, you don't really. We don't. Any of us have any rights. We only deserve hell. And so take advantage of God's grace. Give Him your rights, and love your wife right where she is. Hi, my name is Don Brown, and this is my journey. You say that your life is over. How could He do this to